30. It's an opportunity for us to get to know each other. So I wanted to introduce myself. I'll let Ben introduce himself, and then we'll get started. But before I do any of that, how about I pray? Lord, I thank you. I thank you for technology that allows us to do this from places all over the state, to get together and talk about you and to talk about what you're doing in the young ages of our congregations and our communities. I pray for each one of the men and women in this group, for those who couldn't be here as well, and that you would continue to help us see students and help us pour into the life of students of all different ages, of all different backgrounds, mostly and only so that you can get the honor and glory. I thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so I think Mark or Frank had some pointers on the Zoom meeting here before I totally jump in. If one of you wants to jump in and say that first.
Sure, I'll be happy to. This is Frank, and glad to be with you all this evening. Just a note, when you get a group of the size that we are, given some of the background noises that just occurs as a part of life when you're in meetings like this, sometimes it's often helpful if you mute yourself, and you can do that on the control panel, and remain muted throughout the presentation, unless you have questions. Obviously, then you unmute yourself to ask those, but that'll make for a nice quiet background so that we don't have too much ancillary noise. So just a suggestion, and I'm going to mute myself so that I follow my own lead.
All right, so as we get further into this, we'll definitely be unmuting microphones, because I don't want this, neither Ben nor I want to do this as a lecture or training. I think we're looking towards something like that come later in the year. But right now, we're wanting to connect with each other. And so a little bit about who I am, so that for some of you who don't know who I am, I'm Josh Turjek. I'm the associate pastor at Christ American Baptist Church in Spring Grove, PA. I have grown up in ABCOPAD, though. I grew up at First Baptist Church of Sharon, where my dad is the pastor. Still is the pastor, will be retiring next year. But I've lived my life in ABCOPAD. I've lived my life in ABCOPAD as a student, as a student leader, volunteer, as a teen even, as an adult leader of students, and now as a pastor as well. So now my role in Spring Grove, I'm the associate pastor of youth, young adult, and discipleship. I just boil that all down to I'm the miscellaneous pastor. A little bit of everything. I'm assuming that you guys are all like that to some extent in your roles, in your church, your community, your home. I mean, I've done everything today, from literally carrying a cross out of our sanctuary, to having conversations with people, to cleaning up the pee on the floor from our toddler who didn't make it before, the potty training wasn't working the right way. What I think is awesome about this group, and what we're hoping to really kind of put together and encourage each other, is we all have many different roles. We all have many different hats, and they will come and go. If I do jump off of here, and Ben will just have to take over real fast, but I still have one of my hats sitting in the living room waiting for their mom to come home from dance practice. So we are doing ministry in the midst of life, and that's a bit of who I am. I'm one of the two, now three. I think we can fully announce that today. I didn't know that we were going to be able to unveil that today either, but one of the three leaders for Student Ministries, Associate Regional Minister of Student Ministries, whatever the acronym. We care about students, and we care about connecting students and student leaders in ABCOPAD. And we're fumbling our way through that. We're trying to figure out what that looks like, and what we can do to help and support both you as leaders, whether that's as a volunteer leader, whether you're a solo pastor who wants to reach out to the youth, whether you are just someone who cares about the youth of your church and community, or whether you're a paid person in youth ministry. All of those roles, we want to care for you. And that is why I'm here. I know that's why Ben's here. This is my first time meeting Mandy, so I would assume that's why she's here too. But we'll get to hear from her in a minute. But our goal is to serve you. So tonight, I don't want to do a lot of the talking. We want to facilitate some communication, some collaboration, and some community with each other. So I will stop talking, and I'll let Ben introduce himself.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so I am Ben Cray Hansel. Yes, I am the oldest son of Eric Cray Hansel. And like Josh, grew up in ABCOPAD my whole life. I grew up in Bethlehem, PA. Grew up attending the First Baptist Church of Bethlehem. And then I went to college at Eastern University, recently graduated, and graduated a degree in youth ministry and history, dual major. And during my college career, I felt the call to ministry, and I began serving as the co-director at Camp Ictus Ministries in Palmerton, Pennsylvania. And I've been doing that for about 2 years now. And that camp is where I've served as a work crew member, as a counselor, as a program director, and now as a co-director. And so it's an awesome opportunity. I will be accepting a position. I have accepted a position as a full-time youth pastor at a church in southern New Jersey at the Sharptown Church. And I begin that as a full-time youth pastor July 29th. But I'm still going to be around to help Mandy get settled in and continue on with Josh and just being a support as another youth minister in the region. It's not like I'm moving to California. I'm still around. And I do care for every single one of you. And like Josh was saying, we want to come alongside you and really guide you and help you out and give you resources that will aid you in whether those resources be prayer, physical curriculum, or anything you need. We're here for you, and we want to just connect and just make this night about you guys, about our awesome youth leaders across the region. And with that, Mandy, would you like to introduce yourself? Because like Josh was saying, this is the first time we're meeting Mandy.
Yeah, I would love to introduce myself. I made the decision this morning, so no one knew about me.
Okay, great.
It's hot off the press.
It is. Right. You're hearing it first right here. So my name's Mandy Pascarella. I just graduated from Waynesburg University, and I've been hired as the full-time Director of Youth and Technology. So I'm wearing a few hats at First Baptist in Waynesburg. It's kind of cool. I was doing children's ministry at First Baptist in Waynesburg for 2 years while I was in college, and then they hired me to help out with the youth, which I like a lot more than the children, but you know. And then I'm also jumping on as whatever acronym that we are, Associate Student something.
Whatever you want it to be.
Which means I care about the students in the area and getting them the care that they need. And I'm sure I'll learn a lot more about it as we go on, because like I said, I made that decision this morning.
Awesome.
Anything else you'd like to know? Recently got engaged, so that's coming up.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So.
Well, we kind of put you on the spot there, so thank you. But we do welcome Mandy on board this team. I welcome Mandy on board this team, especially since Ben is running away from me. He didn't say, he said it wasn't California, but it is New Jersey. It is New Jersey. But we're glad that Mandy's come on board, and we're gonna continue to see what this looks like. But for tonight, we want to be able to share with you, for those of you who have climbed on since the very beginning of this, if you noticed that we muted your microphone at some point, that wasn't to mute you specifically, that was just to keep the noise. If everybody's microphone's on, it'll get a little bit crazy at some point. But we do want to hear from you. We want everybody to be able to have a chance to share who you are, why you're here, that kind of thing. So in typical youth ministry fashion, we can't just say name, name, grade, whatever. I wanted at least something different, but for every single person on this call, if you're able, I know sometimes technology might make it that you can't, but if you're able, I'd love to go around and see who's all here, who's all here, and the questions that I'm having you come up with: your name, the church that you serve at, what hats do you wear, and I don't mean what kind of hat, but what hats do you wear at home, work, school? What does your day-to-day life look like? What does your role look like in that regard? And specifically, think about what kind of hats do you wear with youth, but what hats do you wear in ministry and at home? And then something interesting about yourself. hobby, a strange talent, something fun to get to know, for us to get to know you. And then why did you choose to log on to this call? I know there's a lot of questions. I know I will repeat myself on those a little bit. But name the church you're at, the hats you wear, something interesting about yourself, and why you chose to be a part of this tonight. So I don't know who wants to go first. You are able to unmute your own microphone if you, I don't know, somewhere. I'm looking at a different thing that I'm used to looking at. I don't quite know how to unmute someone. I could just go down the list here. All right, well, so this is by list of the the Zoom meeting here. Chris Hamilton, would you be able to introduce yourself?
I can. I am Chris Hamilton. I'm the youth and assistant pastor at First Baptist Church of Lansdale. What's the eye roll, Ben? So I've been at the church for 6 years, and other hats I wear outside of ministry. Husband, dad. I've got 2 young kids, and I think that's about it. And I put my Phillies hat in the spring and my Eagles hats during the football season. Right. And I think, was there anything, and why did I jump on this call?
Yeah.
So I've been a part of ABCOPAD for pretty much all my ministry life and before that. So I love ABCOPAD, love connecting regionally. I grew up part of North Country Baptist Youth Ministry. It was so it was like North Central Pennsylvania, Tioga County, Lycoming County, Bradford County, youth ministries getting together for quarterly regional events. And that was huge and impactful in my life. And so I've always been a huge fan of connecting with others, not just in ABC, but it is cool to have that friendship and tie. And so, yeah, it's excited to see who else is serving in the region and what we can do.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Yes, thanks, Chris. Well, I'm just going to keep going down my list here. So, Chris Davis, you are up next. Would you want to? Oh, it's not letting me unmute you. Oh, there we go. Can we hear you, Chris? No, am I hearing somebody else?
Can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
All right. My name's Chris Davis. I'm the pastor at Liberty Baptist Church in Blanchard. I've been here for about 5 years. Come from West Virginia, and where I served as a pastor there for 3 years, and 2 years before that as a youth minister. And so I'm interested in what's happening with the ABCOPAD Youth Ministry Program. Obviously interested in seeing how the region is going to come around and partner with the smaller churches in rural areas around the state and that don't have any youth minister or someone serving in that capacity. So that's why I'm on here. And hats I like to wear, I wear just about everything. I have a hat collection, about 500 hats. So I have sports hats and bus hats and truck hats and all kinds of stuff. So there's that.
That sounds like you need a whole room to hold your hats.
Well, or a box anyway. So.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. All right. We will keep going on. Eleanor, you're next on my list. Would you want to introduce yourself? If I can unmute you. There we go.
I'm Eleanor Segrist. I'm pastor at Central Baptist in Williamsport. Been there almost 9 years now.
Awesome.
And as pastor in a small church, you do everything. It's probably, from emptying the wastebaskets to preaching the sermon and everything in between, including the youth ministry, or a major part of it falls on you. My other hats, I guess, a wife, a mother to 4 cats.
Okay.
And in my previous life, I was a high school chemistry teacher, and that's probably part of where the love for youth came from and the concern for them.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Something interesting about yourself, or that was under the question of, no, never mind. It was something interesting about yourself. There wasn't something else about that.
That's probably, being a high school chemistry teacher is interesting.
And I'm sure you have plenty of interesting stories that go along with being a high school chemistry teacher. So we'll have to pick your brain at some point. Probably not.
No, probably yes, but that's okay. That's another time and place.
I understand that. I understand that. All right. Well, thank you, Eleanor.
You're welcome.
I muted her too fast. I apologize there. Chris Curtis, I believe also we could call you CJ. You're next on the list here.
Yeah, you're right, Josh. Hi guys. Could you hear me okay?
I can.
My full name is Christopher Curtis, but the youth here, as well as everyone here at Calvary Baptist Church, calls me CJ. Long story, the reason why they call me CJ is because at my previous missionary organization called Youth Works, I was their ministry support coordinator. There was too many Chris's at our training sessions, as well as a Chris that I actually worked with for an entire summer. And they were just like, okay, who are we going to call by nickname? So I was like, CJ. CJ is a little bit of a childhood nickname that my sociology teacher in like 8th grade called me. So CJ it is. I'm here on this call because I like to learn more about our ministry here at ABCOPAD. I mean, I've been having a lot of communications back and forth with Josh, as well as Ben and John from First Baptist Bethlehem. Funny thing I speak about John and I actually had a little bit of a meeting today about certain things that's going on here at Calvary. But I'm just glad to be part of this conversation with all of you. Look, I was able to make it, and thanks to Ben for reminding me. I actually was feeling a little bit under the weather this past afternoon. But I'm feeling better now. I'm glad to be on here. One interesting fact about myself is that I guess I would have to say I really like syrup on like my pancakes, as well as my eggs.
And spaghetti.
Yeah, I was expecting you to say something very different about where you liked your syrup. My daughter likes ranch on anything, including Oreos. So
okay, that's a little weird.
It is a little weird, but I love her, so I can't. Yeah,
it's a cool weird.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, CJ, and we will call you CJ because, as you were saying with all of the Chris's in your previous context, there's 3 of you on this call, so
yes.
Having CJ as a part of that works too. So, all right, we'll continue down the list. Thank you, CJ. The next one is Frank Frischkorn. I would assume that most of us know who this man is, but I will still let him introduce himself anyways.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Frank Frischkorn is my name, and I serve as the regional executive pastor here in ABCOPAD. And hats that I wear, certainly the regional executive pastor piece. Husband of 37 years now, father of 2 daughters, one who will be 32, the other one who will be turning 30, and also a grand dog sitter for Cooper, the Australian Shepherd. Interesting fact about me, much of the furniture in our home I refinished. Worked at Goodwill Industries a number of years ago before I started in ministry, and did furniture refinishing with them, and filled our house with items from Goodwill. And now so much so that my wife says, no more. And now I'm doing it for my daughters. So that's one of my hobbies. And the reason I'm here tonight is to be a support to the student ministry efforts here in the region, and glad to be with y'all.
Yeah, and thank you for being the support in student ministries, but really thank you for the support you give to the entire region on so many different levels. So, brother, and thank you for not just saying that you're here to, make sure that Ben and I are behaving ourselves. So,
well, that's an impossible task. It's beyond me.
All right. Well, the next one on the list is Jeff Johnson. I'm assuming this is Jeff Johnson. I see Jeff, and I just assume that is Jeff Johnson. Would you want to introduce yourself, Jeff?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I am Jeff Johnson, the regional pastor with congregations for ABCOPAD. I grew up in the region before my area of the region was part of the region. I grew up in the Pittsburgh Baptist Association many years ago when it was still a freestanding ABC region like Philadelphia remains. And so youth ministry had a huge impact on me at that time, both as a person within the PBA, but because we were a city region, we often did things with the larger ABCOPAD family, such as statewide youth conventions in Warren, Pennsylvania, in Erie, Pennsylvania, and in various places across the 2-state region. So, and then began my pastoral ministry in this region, and then moved out of it for a few years down to West Virginia to pastor a church in the Charleston area, and then came back to the region. Subsequently, now it's hard to believe. When you said, Pastor Eleanor, you've been at Central almost 9 years, I was like, wow, or you've been there 9 years. I've been in ABCOPAD now serving in my 9th year, and it's just hard to believe how time passes like that. An interesting fact about, the hats I wear is, of course, the region hat. I have a small responsibility with our national headquarters, specifically our home mission societies in the area of discipleship with a focus on evangelism. And I also, of course, am a husband and a father of 2 people, the age of the very group that you're ministering to, a high school student and a college student. And an interesting fact about myself, I like old coins, I like old cars, and I like old friends, and just recently became the recipient of a Best of Show award at a recent car show. So went away with the trophy that night.
Was that the car that won the award, or you that won the award?
That's what I was.
Well, it was me standing by the car, I guess. Okay, so it was the car, and I was standing by it. Yes, it was the car.
Okay, that's just what I heard when I heard Best of Show, that Jeff Johnson won Best of Show at a car show. That's impressive.
It does, see?
All right, well, thank you, Jeff. Again, same with Frank. Thank you for all that you do for the region on many levels, and glad to have you with us in the midst of everything going on in your life as well. So glad to have you here.
Thank you.
The next one I've got on my list is Kyle W. Would you be willing to introduce yourself?
All right, you can see my screen now. My name is Kyle West. I am at Calvary Baptist Church in Newark, Delaware, which is part of not ABCOPAD, but ABCODAP. If you can see the great logo there of American Baptist Church in Delaware and Pennsylvania. Okay.
That's perfect. So cool.
I have been, I guess my role is a volunteer youth director coordinator with Calvary, and I've been there for 3 years now. I've actually been part of Calvary for 18 years, working with the youth program for 10 years, and being the guy for the last 3 years now. Awesome. Besides that, I have a full-time IT job at a local manufacturing company here in Delaware, with my role at that job and at Calvary. It takes up most of my time, but I guess other hats and interesting facts about me would be I spend a lot of time volunteering. I work with a youth robotics program as well as a college service organization at the University of Delaware. I'm online tonight because I care about youth and teens, and I'd like to see.
Did we lose you, Kyle? I feel like a radio host at the moment. Did we lose you?
I think we might have. So maybe Kyle will be back shortly.
All right.
Josh.
Yes.
I was simply going to mention too, I'm sure Kyle wouldn't have, but he was the 2018 recipient of the American Baptist Men's Layman of the Year Award, which is pretty impressive considering if you've been to the men's retreat, which will be this summer, the people that traditionally get that award are those that have been around for a little while. But it speaks volumes to what Kyle has done in ministry there, both on the work with the church, but also outside of it, like you mentioned, with the volunteer robotics program. So that was a huge recognition and one worthy for him.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You'll have to repeat that if he comes back on. He might not have said that, but it's good for him to hear that too. So But all right, well then I guess we will keep the list going here. I see Lori is next on my list. Lori, would you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Lori Jennings. I'm involved at Grace Crossing Community Church in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, which is kind of near King of Prussia, Valley Forge area. And why I'm on this call is to support my cohort who's on here, Ulysses. You'll hear from her next. She is the current youth minister, the current youth ministry leader. I was the former youth ministry leader. I am currently the children's ministry leader because a need needed to be filled.
Okay.
And I'm also the young adult leader of the millennials, 20s and 30s age group.
Okay.
So, and I work during the day in the Township of Lower Merion in the Township Manager's office. And before that, I worked for the Department of Justice. And a fun fact about me is about when I was younger, I was a 911 operator. And that was a fun job.
I'm sure you could have some quite interesting stories that come from that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have some really funny stories and some complete opposite of not funny stories.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was an interesting time, but rewarding.
Yeah, I will also say that I feel like that's the definition of stories from youth ministry too. Some really good, rewarding stories and some stories that, oh, you wish they didn't
break
happen.
your heart.
So.
I love working with youth. Youth and young adults is definitely where my gift and where I'm called to be. But, the way our church governments are set up, you can only serve in a position for so long. So I had to take a hiatus. So I'm with the kids now. And I love the kids too. They're just not exactly my passion. But I do have fun with them.
Well, and I this might be jumping ahead slightly, but I will say kids are not my passion either. I have 3 of them. The thought of 20 of that age group in one room, it kind of freaks me out. Though I know I've talked to plenty of people who love that age group, and the thought of a group of teenagers freaks them out.
Right.
One of the things that Ben and I have been trying to make sure that we're good about in terms of language and all that kind of stuff. One of those pieces is we're not just here to look out for those in 7th through 12th grade, or depending on where you are, might be 6th through 12th grade in terms of that middle school, senior high group. Really, for those who have a care and a heart and a passion for young people, whether that's all the way from birth all the way up to that nebulous young adult age category that, depending on who you talk to, could be 18 to 57. I don't know. Usually that 20s age range, maybe early 30s, all of that kind of stuff. We're not limiting ourselves to just those who work with middle school and high school students.
Yeah. And I would love to connect with more people who work with the 20s and 30s group, which is not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for stepping into the role you felt called to in your church. We really appreciate that. And I know it's tough. Children's ministry is tough, especially when you have them away at a summer camp for a week in the middle of the woods. With
oh my gosh!
It's fun. Trust me. But yeah, no, for real. We've been trying to really be there for whoever's serving young people in any capacity. And the reality is, children's ministry, those kids are going to be our youth group one day, and they're going to be the future of the church.
Yeah.
Even if that's 2 kids to 20 kids, Jesus still died for those 2 kids that come to church. And so we want to make sure we are there for you and to any other children's ministers that might be out there as well.
Yeah. So, Lori, I think I heard you say that there was someone else with you, right?
She is on separately, but her name is Ulysses.
Okay, all right. All right, she was next on the list. I
Hi.
thought that meant that there was multiple people on the same feed. So, how do you say your name again?
Ulysses.
Ulysses. Okay.
Like Ulysses a car.
Ah, okay. All right. That's a way to remember it.
That's my brother's joke, so I'll just run with it.
Okay. All right. Well, would you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ulysses Zarsky. I've been at my church for about 10 years now. I've been doing the youth for about a year. and well, almost a year. And it's been great. It's been challenging. I'm definitely looking for support. I just need to hear more about other people's experiences and learn from each other. I'm a mother of 3 girls, 1 in high school, 1 in middle school, and 1 in elementary school. And I'm a soccer mom, so that keeps me busy. At church, I'm also the drummer in the band, the worship team.
Awesome.
And interesting thing about me is I can roller skate, like the quads, not the inline skates, just quads. And then also I've seen and read all the Lord of the Rings books, and I've seen all the Lord of the Rings movies, films. So
Awesome.
there you go.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I'm a fan.
Did you see the new Tolkien movie that came out yet?
No, not yet. But
wanna
that's
see that.
also on my hit list, definitely.
All right. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Ulysses. Did I say that right?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And Ulysses, you will find that working with everybody here, we are here for you too. And so the same struggles you're going through, somebody else is probably going through with the same thing. And we can compare crazy stories and just bounce ideas off of each other. And so that's why we're here too, to just be really, like we said, be there for each other. And so, so we are your people, and we understand what you're going through. And so just to put that in perspective, we understand you. So
we haven't all figured it out. So
yeah, trust me.
If anybody on here has, you can take over the meeting. I can guarantee
please.
that.
Hey, you guys. This is Lori again. I think, unfortunately for poor Ulysses, I feel so bad. My ministry time ended at Grace Crossing, and youth ministry and hers began around the same time that we had kind of a church war going on, and many people left with their kids. And so then Ulysses got left with just a couple kids left. And I had, 20 kids in my youth ministry, and then she had 4. So that's where her biggest challenge comes from. It has nothing to do with her. It's just circumstance. And
well, people move away, or that was a lot of things that happened with us too. But
absolutely.
Phoenixville, our little town in in Phoenixville, it's we've got a lot of kids. They're out there. I just want to find a way to introduce myself, introduce Christ to them, and somehow bridge a gap between our church and them somehow. So but it's
Ulysses,
I'm just
Waynesburg has about the same thing going on right now. I came in with a very small, it's like maybe you and I can figure this out together.
See, I told you, we're with you.
Woo! Yay!
And I think that's been in my hope for this, and ultimately hope probably for future one of these or future collaborations where you connect with someone within this group and you take some time to pick their brain, to share ideas, to live ministry together, even if it is across distances. So that's awesome. And we're going to get into some of those questions here before we're done tonight. So I don't want to jump ahead too fast, but that's awesome. And we're glad that both of you are here. I believe, Kyle, you're back on. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I don't think so. Just dealing with technology issues along with student ministry.
Well, and those of us who are in student ministry and do a lot of things with students, we have to be stuck with technology, and sometimes it works great, and sometimes it doesn't. So
my computer decided it wanted to overheat right around the same time I was talking.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, we're glad you're back on. I will say while you were gone, Jeff sang your praises and told us about the award you won at the 2018 men's meeting men's retreat last year. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Yes. And he was wearing a Camp Ictus shirt when he accepted that award. I will never forget that.
And right now, Ben, I'm wearing the OG Breakaway.
There we go. Now we're talking.
Not your Breakaway. The OG.
Now we're talking.
All right. Well, I think we have one more introduction to be had, and I believe that is Mark Mazurgian Smith, unless I missed anybody else on this list here.
Well,
so I think it's your turn, Mark.
And I'll just say, great to be facilitating the group, serve in the region with communications and mission. I got my start back when dinosaurs were roaming the planet, and Eastern College back in those days started this brand new thing called the Youth Ministries track. And so, so me and Fred Flintstone and a few others worked on the program together, but it's been fun, and God has had a wild ride doing all kinds of different things in the midst of ministry. So I'm super grateful to be able to help support and encourage all of you, and have a passion for student ministry, children's ministry. My wife has a heart for kids. We've adopted a slew of them. It seemed like at some point or another, every child in the Williamsport School District was at my home, hanging out with my family. So it's good. It's nice to be part of the team to help out. So thanks.
Awesome. And again, thank you for all you do for the region. We're glad you're on here. And frankly, this thing wouldn't have started had Mark not gotten on and gotten this moving and actually worked, Ben and I into all of this. Since we're not from the Flintstone age, we had to get some pointers on the Zoom stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I'm totally going to use that from now on, Mark. Just know I'm gonna hold the Flintstone past against you.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. That's how I power my car, like with bare feet, right?
Well, it might serve you better when the gas prices go up. So, all right. Well, some of what we want to do is just get in here and facilitate conversation. Ben and I did not want to talk all night long. We didn't feel like we had that much to offer you all night long, and we figured the best thing we can do is provide community for one another. I will, however, say, and Ben, you can jump in if you want, we didn't actually say anything interesting or weird about us.
That's true, we didn't.
So, that I have 3 kids. That's one of my hats. And being a pastor, I love the fact that my hats change all the time. Sometimes I wish they didn't change as much, but I mean, when this thing is over, I have a young couple who are getting married in June coming over to the house for premarital counseling. So doing a whole lot of stuff there, but I have to echo in terms of something interesting, something weird about myself. I might not be a big Lord of the Rings fan. I'm way too much of a Marvel movie fan. I was never into the comics, but I can tell you just about anything about the MCU and all of the movies that have come around. And I really just desperately want to do a ton of lessons on the MCU, but I don't think the majority of my youth group could stand it that long. So that's a bit of my nerdiness. Ben, I don't know if you want to share anything on your own. Then
about my nerdiness.
There is nothing. Keep moving.
Oh, thanks, Toph. No, some hats that I wear. I was wearing a college student hat for a while, and then a dual major hat, and then camp director hat, and RMA hat, along with the responsibility of a college athlete for a little bit. So that was fun. But something interesting about me. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. I've had gray hair since I was a junior in high school. Yep.
All right.
That's me. Isn't that weird? So
that's different. That's for sure.
It's different. I know. Gray hairs mixed with black hair with a red beard. It's weird.
Well, we're all unique in some senses there. Can you raise your hand in this thing? That's cool.
Yeah, I wanted to know what it did, but I didn't get to say anything weird or interesting.
That's
So
true. You did.
I was going to pass it on to you too. Go for it.
I'll use the one that I always use. I went to Greece last spring. We were studying Paul, and I went cliff jumping.
Oh, awesome. That's cool.
Awesome.
The water was freezing, and that's all I remember.
It woke you up when you entered. I'm guessing that's for
sure.
Oh, I can lower my hand too.
That's incredible. Cool.
Well, cool. So apparently you can raise your hand. So if you're desperately trying to get our attention,
just raise your hand.
I don't know how you raise your hand, but you can do it.
In participants.
In participants.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well.
All right. So, yep. Okay. Everybody's finding the raising a hand thing.
Got it. Yep. Okay,
there we go.
Cool.
All right. So here's what we want to do. We wanted to talk and just provide some questions to get us communicating with each other, to share some of our own struggles and joys, and for each of us to kind of jump in and support where we have expertise and where we have knowledge in certain issues and certain things. And part of the reason we wanted to do this, and part of the reason we're still trying to figure out what this looks like in terms of ABCOPAD Student Ministries, partially because it's such a big, wide area, and partially because we're all in different positions, and we're still trying to figure that part out. But we also knew this, to me, came from something from it's from Orange Curriculum. Reggie Joyner and Kristen Ivy, they've put out a lot of stuff about the phases of life. But one of the things that I come back to quite frequently is some of their stuff on just development. And they've got things from every single different age. But one of the things they do is they calculate everything by week. And in some cards I have here in front of me, you're not going to be able to see them very well, so I'm just going to say it. But if you look at from 0 to 18 to when they graduate, age 0 to graduation, there's only 936 weeks that fill that time. And to bring that down even more, poignant, there's only 312 weeks in a student's life from 7th grade through 12th grade. It goes down 208 weeks when they're in high school, from 9th grade to when they graduate. The time that we have with the young people around us is not as much as we think. Sometimes we think we can jump in, or sometimes we think we can hold off and we can wait until something comes up or whatever, till we have a few more kids and then we'll do something. We wanted to share some of the immediacy of what reaching out to the students in our area, whether that's the 2 who show up to youth group, whether that's the couple kids that are around the community, whether that's whatever that looks like, 2 to 20 to however many else. There's an urgency that we should be reaching into the kids' lives that are definitely right in front of us. And what does that look like? And we didn't want to just hold off until we still completely figured this out. And one of the challenges we were having was trying to connect with youth leaders across the region in which we were spread out. Ben and I was hoping I wouldn't do that, but Ben and I are on the eastern side of the state, and we didn't have anybody until Mandy came on board today for the western side of the state.
Thanks, Mandy.
Yes, thank you. We wanted to be able to get people together, and the awesome thing is we live in a day and age with technology that we can have people from the western side of Pennsylvania all the way down to Delaware joining together with us, and it's exciting for me. So with all of that said, and with the kind of the impetus behind all of this, starting off exciting, what excites you about working with youth, and why is it that you do what you do? I'm not going to go through name by name. I'm going to let you unmute yourself if you want to share. If you need unmuted, tell me and I can unmute you that way. But the question, what excites you about working with youth? Whatever age group that means to you, but what excites you about working with youth? Why is it that you do what you do? What gets you moving in this area? Who wants to share first?
Can you hear me?
I can.
It's Elise.
Yeah, go for it.
When we have our talks, like Lori said, it's like there's about maybe 4 of us. But when we talk about relevant social issues, things that just happened just like a day ago, a week ago. And we talk about how Christianity, how Jesus makes a difference in those situations. Like how could things have been different if they had a worldview that was different? And then we just it becomes not just theology in the head, it's just like something you can use. And I think sometimes the kids are just like, oh, okay, yeah. So I think that's exciting. That's like being able to take something that you can just use it in a situation that's not, theory, but something that's happened, like, in school or, in their lives, that's on their radar right then and there.
Yeah.
So that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. Those conversations you get to have are pretty awesome. I mean, sometimes they're a bit ridiculous and absurd and all those kind of things when working, especially with teenagers, but kids can give just as interesting conversations. But it's those conversations one-on-one in a small group that, yeah, I agree with that. It excites me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just actually, this is kind of interesting. I just did a study for my senior seminar course, and this generation we're working with is Generation Z. The millennials are actually out of the picture now. They're young adults now, and so Generation Z, they grew up with a screen in front of their hand. That's all they knew, because they were actually born in the year 2000. Right? Isn't that weird? The 18-year-olds now were born in 2000, the year 2000. So it's nuts. And so this generation we're working with, the students, they are the most hyper aware, and they are aware of everything going on in the world, and they do have opinions and they do have passions about it. And so, Ulysses, what you're doing is awesome, and how we can take these worldview, these things that are going on in the world, and provide a biblical sense of justice for these kids. And so that is absolutely awesome. So thank you for doing that. That's great.
Yeah. Who else? What excites you about working with kids, youth, young adults?
So my favorite part, I've worked with youth for a while. I actually grew up in summer camp ministry as a camper, and then as a kitchen staff person, and then as a counselor. I was at Pine Springs camp for 6 years, which you probably don't know where that is, but it's fine.
Is it in Pine Springs?
It's not. It's in Jennerstown. Yay.
Worth a shot.
Yeah, it was. But my favorite part about this age group is you can sit down and you can have super deep conversations and like just have one-on-ones about their life, and then you can go play in the mud and it's fine. So that's my favorite part, having that balance with kids that want to go play and kids that want to talk, and maybe a little bit of both.
That's cool. That's great.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, I have to say, like, starting with Calvary Baptist Church in Allentown in October, with me so far, like, just seeing seeing them grow from when I first started to them with now, with my youth, and mainly the youth group that I have from 8th to 12th grade, a lot of the students now are actually growing closer with me to the point that they are having those deep, long conversations about their faith, about their testimony. And some of them telling me why they really love Jesus is so cool. It's so awesome, really heartwarming, as well as the point of some of the seniors that I have that are graduating this year are actually really like, I really want to go to college now.
That's awesome.
Which is so cool. Having all my seniors graduate, 2 of my seniors are actually going to the same school and rooming together. It's just so cool to see that. Yeah, to see that experience happen. And what really led me towards youth ministry actually was this past summer when I was working for my this Youth Works mission trip experience. Just seeing like week after week with these different students, just seeing the struggles that some of these students have, and then coming from this mission trip organization and saying, hey, I really wanted to devote my life to Jesus Christ and serve alongside him, or I'm going to stop selling drugs, or I want to start becoming a better Christian to better my life. It's just so cool that we have such an important role to build these relationships with our students. Is just amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, CJ.
No problem.
You're the man. You're the man.
Those relationships are key.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it took a little bit to build trust. It always takes a little bit to build trust, but it seems like you're getting there, man. You're getting to that point. So that's awesome. That's great.
Hi.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Anybody else?
I think everyone's kind of said everything like I would share. Obviously, I love the the conversations. Bible study, just love seeing them learn and grow and being challenged in their faith, walking closer with Jesus. The relationships, I'm a big relational person, so I love nothing more than sitting down and just chatting to someone, hearing their life story, just kind of what's going on in life, catching up. But one thing I've just been blown away by lately, just really encouraged to see how like students go into serve, that we don't just sit around and talk about Bible study and talk about different things, but to see them actually getting involved at our church in different ways. Like they're all serving in children's ministry in some way. We're going on a youth missions trip this summer, and it's just cool because I think about when I was a student, there's no way I was dropping $200 to go work somewhere. If I was dropping $200, it was for something fun or like creation, music and stuff like that. And so it's just really cool to see that played out. It's just exciting to think about investing in that next generation that can continue to go and make disciples and to make an impact in our world for Jesus at such a young age that they're already doing it and they're actively training and being equipped. And so it's just been really cool to think about, okay, what are they learning here and how can we continue to fan that flame to continue to reach children below them and to realize that we serve in so many different ways. So it's just exciting to see them do that and the hearts that they have.
That's awesome. It's cool. Thanks, Tove, for sharing.
Yeah, I think one of the things for me along that line is getting to see it going from just a head thing to an action thing in a youth's life, especially being able to get to see them even from a kid age up through teenage and even older than that, to see that the lights click, to see the opportunities come about for them to step up. And it is exciting to be able to see that desire come out of them. So yeah, I agree with you. Now I've got other questions, so don't just think because if nobody's talking that we're all done. So.
Y'all aren't getting off the hook that easy. Come on.
Now, I will say that's the easy one. What excites us, but I also acknowledge that there are times in ministry where ministry in general, and specifically ministry with youth, there are times where it's awesome and it is exciting, and we look forward to those times that we have with people, with students, and whether that's one student that you really connect with, maybe it's the only student you have, but you're really connecting with, you have a relationship with. And then there are the times that was spoken about earlier that the church has kind of gone through a little bit of turmoil. People have moved and have taken a step back in certain areas, and people are just people sometimes. And all of a sudden the situation within what we're doing changes, and it's not so exciting anymore, or it's harder to find the excitement. So my next question really is just the flip side. What is your biggest struggle when it comes to working with youth today? I was about to give some examples. I don't want to just give some examples that way. I want you to be able to share what's on your heart. What's the biggest struggle that you have in your ministry with youth personally or on the church or whatever for you right now?
The parents.
How so? In your context, how so?
Yeah, how so?
It's not the kids. It's never the kids because they're kids, but it's the parents getting in the way and keeping them from things. I mean, when I was the youth person, keeping them from activities or not wanting them to participate in mission activities. We were working in a homeless shelter because what if someone would come and approach them as if I would leave them on their own in a room full of homeless men? Just personality challenges with the parents and sometimes teaching the opposite of what I was teaching them in youth ministry about following Jesus and the way Jesus would respond to things. And their parents sometimes respond not in quite the Jesus way. And so it's really, and if you have kids, especially that don't have parents that come to church, you're dealing with whatever is going on with them at home, that they're in complete turmoil, and then they come to you a hot mess. And then you have them for a youth weekend and they're centered and stable, and then you release them back to the craziness. So that's my biggest challenge. If I could just protect some of the kids from their parents.
Yeah. I agree with you on all of that. My previous context at First Baptist in Sharon, PA, was definitely similar to that. That a lot of our kids came because of our strong after school program. That was to elementary students, but we got a lot of our teenagers from that, and it was the same struggles of parents who would ground their kids from church instead of seeing church as an avenue, even when they were in trouble, to possibly benefit because of going, and all of those kind of things. You're right. Parents can be difficult, especially in non-church homes. And those weeks that I said earlier, the 312 weeks between 7th and 12th grade, that's really, depending on whether you have a weekly encounter with them, that's only 312 times in their 7th through 12th grade that you have. And if I think most of us would understand, we don't have that many times to pour into students. So the relationship that we do or don't have, or can or can't have, with the parents of the students that we have, definitely can make things challenging, for sure. What other struggles do you have in the youth ministry, the children's ministry that you have in your church right now? Or maybe the struggle is that you don't have a children's youth ministry right now, and that is where you're living in this moment of trying to figure that out.
I would have to say at Calvary Baptist in Allentown, one of the biggest struggles that I'm having is, it's a couple I'm having, but one of the things that I'm trying to work with, mainly with the youth in general, is, actually, like Laura was saying, like the parents, is the importance of the students coming to Sunday school as well as church on time. Because they're missing a lot of the lessons and all the instructional piece. I mean, coming to youth group is awesome. Like, I love that I have my numbers up for youth group. We're having a good time. We still have that little devotional going on. But the main the main lessons that are going on in Sunday school, they're really missing. And I'm doing the best. I'm sending out remind text messages. I'm calling the parents. I'm doing Facebook posts. I mean, I have my adult leaders. Some of them talk to the parents about coming to Sunday school. There's the times that they come to Sunday school on time, or when we're doing like big productions. Like I had a big Christmas performance with Little Drummer Boy. Everyone came for that. Or I would have the Mother's Day performance. Everyone came for that. So what I've been doing is that I'm starting to think about, and this is something that I'm going to actually bring up to my Christian Ed board, about incorporating more so drama-based Sunday school lessons. So maybe with that, the students would want to come more, and then we could have a production at maybe at the end of the month, or the end of that particular holiday week or something like that. But it's one of those things that I'm trying to all right, well, hey, they don't like the normal lessons. Maybe there's other things we can do. Incorporate the arts as well as incorporate theater, but at the same time incorporate the different type of curriculum, which I've been working with Ben with. And by the way, Ben, the gospel project thing, Pastor's totally on board with.
Sweet. So
I just want to let you know that is something that we're going to be starting with. We're going to look into other curriculum as well, and that's been the biggest toll. Now, the other side of it is also my board of Christian Ed. There's been a lot of pushback on certain things I've been trying to implement with the youth ministry program that we have at Calvary. I just feel like it's not only that I'm new, maybe it could be because I'm a little bit of a younger status, but this retreat that I'm planning in June, from June 21st to 23rd, is a team building and leadership retreat that I'm actually going to start. I'm going to bring up like a open invite to some of the board members and have them come and see what we do. Because that's one of the things that I see the board's lacking, is that they're harping on some of the negatives and some of the positives as well of the ministry program, but none of them come to any of my youth events or into my Sunday school lessons to actually say, oh, this is what CJ is doing, or this is what his volunteers are doing.
Right.
And one of my things is, like, before you judge someone, actually experience it.
Yeah.
And I'm actually I had my evaluation come about, and I'm just like, I'm talking to, pastor as well as one of my the office administrator at the church, being like, okay, you're evaluating me, but how are you evaluating me accurately if you don't attend any of these events or my Sunday schools to actually give me the right, evaluation and the right feedback? Because I'm all for, feedback, good criticism to get and learn about my role. But how can you give me that accurate feedback if you're not actually there experiencing what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, whether we want it or not, we are bound by our roles, whether that's as a volunteer or as a staff person, by job descriptions and by expectations, both good expectations from people on us, unrealistic expectations, and sometimes straight up bad expectations. It's the ability to do ministry while also being a part of a larger body is a challenging aspect of ministry, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And CJ, you're right, man. There's always a written job description, and then there's the actual job description.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in ministry, right? And so working with people, and Josh was hitting on this, those expectations. People are going to come up to you, and I know we've talked about this before, but for everybody else on here, just keeping reminding ourselves, like, why are we doing this? Why are we in youth ministry when things get tough? And just think about, what was the moment for you that you realized you wanted to go into ministry? And so when you start to feel a little bit of burnout, or you start to feel frustrated with people, just remember that our goal is to bring students from where they are to the feet of Jesus. And that's our goal. And if we're doing that, then we are on pace for service to the kingdom. So awesome. Thanks, CJ, for sharing.
Yeah. Anyone else? What's your biggest struggle?
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to sound really pathetic, but this is exactly what it is. After the kids moved away and things got, no one was coming, like no one. And so me and my daughters, we made flyers. I made flyers, and we went around the neighborhood of the church, knocking on doors, telling people that we have a youth group, come out and join us, blah blah blah. And and then I would set up the ping pong table, get some Lecrae music on, and just ready and praying and hoping and praying that families would come by. A lot of the churches in our neighborhood and don't have a lot of families that come out to their churches. I mean, it's not just youth, it's just general attendance.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so if you don't have families, moms and dads bringing their kids, or grandmas bringing grandkids or something like that, then you feel like, all right, well, I gotta go. I've got to go out and see what I can do, or what God will do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that didn't happen, I think the most depressing part was we were setting up chairs, me and my daughter, my middle school daughter, was setting up chairs, and nobody came. And she looked at me and she said, Mom, what are we doing? And I was just like, God only knows. I don't know. I don't know anymore. And we said a prayer, read from the Bible. I asked her, how are you? and we closed up the church, and I've just been doing, so I didn't have like a weekly youth group or anything. So we were doing, kids were coming out on a Sunday morning. So we were doing like not a children's church, but like having like Sunday school for teens. And so we were doing that. So I've been doing that now, like, three Sundays of the month or so, and 2 or 3 Sundays of the month. And I would teach, and then we'd have a couple young adult teachers would teach as well. But like I said, it still has been the 4, or less. And so I struggle with a little bit of self-doubt, like I may not be hearing right or looking under the doing right, or something's wrong. And so I just so right now I'm at a holding period, so to speak. I'm just waiting and listening, and just keeping my eyes open to see any opportunity. And that's just like where I am.
Thank you for sharing. I mean, thank you for your honesty on that. I've been there. I've been there multiple times. I've had youth groups where nobody's shown up. I've had youth groups where one kid has shown up. And I've found that sometimes when I have the one or the couple, I'm able to pour into them more than I can when I've got a bigger group. So my biggest encouragement to you would be, don't give up. You've got those 4, sometimes less, the honesty of that, 4, sometimes less on Sunday mornings. You've got 4 kids that God has given you to be able to pour into.
Absolutely.
And that's exciting.
Absolutely. No, you are doing it's, and honestly, part of that is not on you too. You are doing what you are called to do, and that is being ministry and youth ministry. And so just allowing, we just read a book in my senior seminar course called, you might have heard of it, Sustainable Youth Ministry by Mark DeVries. And he talks about how it takes 5 to 6 years to really build a youth ministry up. And so it's just crazy to think about how many people we interact with in 5 to 6 years. You don't even know it. And so I agree with Josh. At least you are doing a great thing by pouring into those 4 kids. And like I said earlier, Jesus still died for those 4 kids. And so you are doing what you are called to do. And that is absolutely amazing. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay in prayer. And we're here for you too.
One of the things I'll add on all of this too, and we'll keep a chance for other people to chime in at some point too. But one of the things that ABCOPAD, definitely on a senior leadership level, but in the LLCs and many other avenues, have been looking at a small church essentials book by Carl Vaders. And this concept has been talking to the majority of ABCOPAD churches are small churches. And sometimes we see that as, well, we're not succeeding. We're not as big as that 1,000-member church, so why bother? And Carl continues to point out, and I'm not going to tell all the stuff about the book. I would really encourage you to read it if you haven't. It's a really good look into small church ministry. And I think there's a lot of application to small church youth ministry, even if that is just to a couple kids. That God, if the small church was a bad thing, the whole of the country is not doing it right. that there are the vast majority of churches in this country are small churches. We have some big churches that have big numbers, and praise God that God is working in those churches too, but God is working in small churches.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes your small church might not ever have the attendance to make a full-on youth ministry, but you can have an impact on the youth of your church and community, no matter how many numbers that is. And I definitely have been challenged on the small church concept and what we continually say is small church and that it's a bad thing and all that kind of stuff, changing the language, and that the small church is essential to the world and the community around us. So is the efforts that we are putting in, even if it is a small, in terms of the world, effort in youth ministry. Like Ben has kept saying, Jesus died for each one of those kids, and the exponential effort that can come from how you poured into that one kid, you may never see the fruit that comes out of the seeds they're able to plant, and that those seeds are able to plant. Those seeds are, I think most of you understand that concept, that we can have a wide-reaching effect for Jesus, and that he can get the honor and glory if we're just faithful with who he's given to us in this time. And then being willing, I love that you said being willing to go out into the neighborhood. That might not have accomplished anything this time, but you never know what that might do into the future, or what seeds you may have planted in doing that. We too far often get stuck in our buildings. So getting out of our building, I love that. That's awesome.
That is cool.
I think my biggest struggle is exactly from this small church aspect, because it is a very small church. I've probably got 7 kids core for ministry, all of whom are related. If I'd pick one kid as the aunt and she's not the leader, then everybody else would be a nephew or a niece, and the ones that are not brothers and sisters are cousins. That gives me an awful lot of all or nothing. If the family decides they're going to have a picnic or whatever, my entire group is gone. Just like that, pretty much. So that's a struggle.
That's when you just go crash the picnic.
I've practically done that. That means an age range from seniors in high school to 4th grade, because you can't really divide the family. So that presents some real challenges. And if I do divide them, my groups are going to be too small anyway. And another part of the challenge is if someone who is not related comes, they have a very hard time being accepted, because the kids are already so close by biological ties.
Well, and I will say there are plenty of groups of teenagers I've been around that aren't connected by biological ties that still struggle with the idea of letting someone else in. That problem is not just unique to family relation aspects of youth ministry, but definitely is a reality of small church youth ministries and small church family ministries in some senses. Thank you, Eleanor. Anybody else have a struggle that they would want to share that kind of hasn't been touched on by somebody else, or you want to expound upon that too?
Hey guys, it's Kyle here from Delaware. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
One of my biggest struggles that I'm having is commitment by both the parents and the students, and understanding that, we talked earlier about grounding kids from church, but the concept of whether it's that or whether it's sports things or school commitments, and all of those are important in families' lives, but just the overabundance of things that our teenagers have going on, and coming to church on a Wednesday night or Sunday morning isn't high priority. And parents aren't, talk about in my generation, right? Parents brought their families went to church, not necessarily anymore. So, and then, with commitment, also inconsistency of talk about low numbers and are you doing it for one person or two? We can have, I think, 6 or 7 is our average this year for youth group, but we could have 2 or we can have 13, and trying to plan a lesson or plan a game that could be for 2 or it could be for 13. It's like, well, what now? So that's just some of my struggles.
Yeah. I heard some of that echoed in Eleanor there too, that, you have all or nothing. I know those struggles of competing, and that's something that the church is dealing with in general, competing with the world around us and the schedules that make a part of that, and sometimes just straight up the priorities. I will also, this is one of those things that I fear is going to get me in trouble someday, but I do also want to remind us too sometimes that what we do, whether that is, or what we plan, Wednesday nights, Sunday mornings, special events, that kind of stuff. I just encourage you not to put so much emphasis on that, for yourself, that's not the be all end all of what you can do with students, but also a reminder that it's not what saves them either. And I think sometimes we want to make sure that we're pouring into the youth around us, that we plan these things and we know they're good. We've spent time on them. We care about the students. We care about what we're doing. And then when nobody shows up, we're a bit hurt. At worst, we're a bit cynical, and we get kind of jaded about it all. And just reminding us, those things don't save the students. I do fully believe in my heart that Jesus has called us to be a part of community together. And so the things that keep distracting us, especially in students' lives, the sports and everything else, at some point that can definitely take us from a relationship with Jesus. But my encouragement and the challenge to myself here recently has been, how can I support our students when they aren't at my youth stuff? When they are at something else, how can I encourage them? How can I push them? How can I get them to share their faith in whatever, especially on the sports end of things, when they're in the midst of sports practices and all that kind of thing? How can they share their faith in the midst of all that? How can I support them in doing that? I think there's a much greater need for that in what we do with students around us in the coming years than just saying, well, if they didn't come to my thing, something's wrong. I think they're going to be missing something quite important for their ministry and their life walk with Jesus. But yeah, that's just my encouragement. I like I said, somebody's going to get upset with that sometime, but that's my heart for us as leaders, to make sure we're pouring into the lives of youth and not just making them come and pour into what we think needs to happen.
And you never know. I mean, those students that show up their parents might ask them what happened at youth group that night too. And so in a way, we can almost reach the parents through the students too. And so we just never know what the impact we can have. I know Josh was hitting on multiplication earlier and discipling and sowing seeds. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, Kyle. I know it's hard, but I get it, man. You're taking on a role, and that's all we can ask, man. We're all serving the kingdom, and we're all having same struggles. So we get it.
Yeah.
I had this past Sunday, I came into church. I normally bring my grandson, but he was away at the beach. And I came in, and there weren't any kids. And the service started, not one kid in sight. Pastor Dan looked at me. He's like, I guess no children's sermon today, huh? And I said, well, I guess not. And the craft I had planned, they were painting birdhouses. We'll just do that next time. And in 5 minutes, there were 10 elementary or younger kids in the sanctuary. Mm-hmm. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Just blink and things will change.
Yeah. And you're right. It's you just never know. And I feel like a lot of the stereotypes for people who work with youth or young people is they're the people that have to be quick on their feet, right? And so learning to adapt, and that's such a stereotype we have, is we're the creative and adaptive and all of these crazy people, and so but some of us aren't like that, and so we just need to know that sometimes we need to plan more. And again, adapting to those plans is difficult, but God's empowered us to do that. And so here we are. So Lori, thanks for sharing that. That was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was awesome to hear.
Anybody else? I will promise we will pick this up to a lighter tone here.
Yeah.
But I do think sometimes we need to share what's on our hearts, because sometimes it's hard to do that in any other context. It's hard to share some of the struggles of what we're going through or what we're lacking with other leaders within our church. Definitely sometimes with the students that we are working with. We need sometimes a chance to vent, but to also share our concerns and be able to support each other.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I don't want to prolong that either. But one of the questions that I think comes out of it, and I think CJ, you sort of led into this a little bit too, that you were sharing a little bit of your struggle, and then how you're trying to turn that into something different, something positive. The drama piece of your Sunday school time, you're seeing something that they are connecting with and trying to use that. So that's basically what this next question is. If you could have one thing to help you in ministry, what would it be and why? What would be the one step that you're wanting to take to grow your ministry, to deepen your ministry, to just impact a certain kid in your ministry that you're having a hard time struggling with, or you're struggling with connecting with, anything that direction? What would, if you could have one thing to help you in ministry, what would it be and why? And I will say, I'm going to take this answer off the table. More kids.
And more money.
And more money. Yeah. We could always use more kids. We could always use more money. But what would be the thing that you would really like to, maybe it's a curriculum, maybe it's a tool of some kind, maybe it's a form of doing something within your group. But what would that be? This might be a slight bit of market research for Ben and I, but wanting to hear from you guys. All right, now the youth in me wants to start singing the Jeopardy theme song.
Oh gosh.
Probably.
Go ahead, Eleanor.
Activities close that would involve maybe other youth and sound like fun to them. And I say close in that there's a great deal of resistance to anything overnight. There's in my particular context, they're much happier if the parents can come along, which kind of blows my mind, but that seems to be the truth of where I am. So I think in some ways I'm looking for wide age span activities, close, but that are highly spiritual and spiritually challenging.
All right. I love that your youth want to have the parents be involved. I mean, I know you said that there's that family connection to begin with, but man, my kids, some of my volunteers that I want to lean on that would be great to lean on are their parents, and the teenagers say, absolutely not. So the fact that they are okay and wanting that connection, that's awesome. And I definitely would say run with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Activities with other youth groups.
Cool.
That collaboration of youth, especially for those youth to know that they're not alone, is important.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, Eleanor, I know something we did at our church was based on a book called Passing the Baton, and it involved parents, the teenagers, the younger kids. They were all together for part of it, and they shared a meal together, and they did some Bible study together, and then they broke off into separate groups in the same setting and did things separately. So that kind of something like that would probably work for the parents to be in the same building, but maybe they're in this room and the little kids are in that room, and they're each getting a lesson based on the same lesson, just based on their age group, and teaching the parents how to teach their children at home about Jesus and things like that. It's called Passing the Baton.
Awesome.
We did it as a Thursday night group at the church, and that was a lot of fun.
Getting the generations to work together is challenging. I know that, and especially getting teenagers to work with parents and vice versa is challenging. But if you can find ways to do that, that book being, you know, a possibility there, or just getting them together, that's awesome. I like to hear that story, Lori. Thank you.
Awesome.
I guess something that I would like to see, or to know, or to get someone who has done something successful, is to reach out into the community, especially for the young adults, for myself, and the same thing that Ulysses is looking for the youth, and how to, in what setting to reach them best.
Mm-hmm.
That is where we struggle. I have a young adult group. There's 8 to 10 of them that meet every week, and we struggle in how to move out into the world to start building relationships out there, in what setting to do that. So that's what I would really like, to connect with people who are doing some things like that.
Okay.
Cool.
I will say I have some thoughts on some of these, but I also do know, especially because of time, we don't have time to like dig into all of these concepts. And I do hope, and we'll talk at the very end about the possibility of getting together in the future around a subject, not so general, but sharing around certain subjects and certain things that we can support each other in. The community outreach thing, we can definitely talk at some point. It's one of the things it's on my heart, and I know that there's more that I could be doing. There's things I could do better at that, but I've also really enjoyed getting out and doing service projects. We have an entire week of mission where we just go out and serve in our local community, and I love it. So I'd be more than happy to talk to any of you about that specifically at some point. But you're right. I think some point having just a forum where we talk about some of those ways that we have gotten out into the community, I think is huge.
Or how to improve on that too. And so how do we keep moving forward and thinking ahead of the game, and thinking ahead of, establishing expectations for our own ministry and a vision for our ministries. Even in small churches, having a vision and a mission is awesome. That's what young adults look for, is where are you taking me? Like, where are you guiding us? And so we could keep we'll go into that a little bit more later on. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah. I mean, we can do mission projects, and you can do, one-time events, or something you even do for a short amount of time. But I'm looking for long-term relationship building,
right,
where it just starts out as relationship building and then maybe moves to discipleship eventually.
Yeah. Awesome.
I would also say that relationship building is just a part of the discipleship. You don't have to divorce the two there. That relationship building is just a part of building disciples. So yeah.
That's cool. Thanks, Lori, for sharing. Mandy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, kind of going along with the easy solution would be more kids, but I'm looking for a more creative solution, since I can't just like snap and have more kids. I've got one high school guy in particular who loves to play games, but sometimes is one of like 1 or 2 kids that show up. So like, how do you play games with 1 or 2 people?
Yeah.
So I need a little more creative solutions before we have more kids, because we've got a lot of kids in the children's program. And that's why I was hired, is to keep the program going with, the expectation that those kids are going to come up into middle school, and then we'll have more. But right now, he wants to play games, and I don't have anyone for him to play games with, except me.
Well, and my biggest encouragement to you there would be, it's not going to be the big smash grab excitement kind of games, but any game that, cheesy or not, that you're able to do with him, that's relationship building, and that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't always have to be flashy. The one game I remember from being a kid in youth group was this dumb game where everybody took off their shoes and put them on another side of the room, and our youth director just mixed them all up, and we had to run over and get them. We thought it was stupid, and yet it was the thing we talked about the most. We still talk about that game. We still give her a hard time about that game. But in reality, that just built more camaraderie and more relationship between us and Cindy, that she had an impact. She had an impact far greater than a really dumb game about shoes. But sometimes we overthink it, and we just need to be there and goof off and have some fun.
Yeah. And Mandy, you probably know this, but a huge saying that was going around was, let's get this bread, which means like, let's go, like, let's attack this. Right. And so I took a game on a retreat. I literally took a loaf of bread and I hid it around the camp, and I called it, let's get this bread. And so each team had to find the loaf of bread still in the package, hidden around the camp. And so sometimes we overthink it, but it can be something simple as hiding a loaf of bread and calling it, let's get this bread. So it's just things like that, that one or two kids could do together. Like you hide it around the church or outside the church, like that would be cool. So like Josh was talking about, just building that camaraderie and relationships up. So
yeah. I don't want to make it seem like I have it all together. To be able to answer this question for myself, the biggest challenge for me is trying to connect the generations. As ABCOPAD churches go and youth ministries go, I know I have one of the larger ones, but it's really easy, especially in that kind of a role, to have the youth off by themselves and to not be connected with the larger church body. And what does that look like? How do I do that? I've got plenty of senior adults in our church that are very invested in what we do, but getting the students and the adults really invested in each other, depending on what study you read and all that kind of stuff, that it takes 5 to 7 kind of adults in each student's life for something to really take hold. And so that to me is a challenge. How do I get, and I'm still trying to work through that, how do I get the generations working together and sharing with one another and learning from one another? That there's a lot that the young generation can teach those of us in the adult category and vice versa. So that would be my if I could have anything right now, I'd have some sort of a program that connected those people together instantly. But I know that that's not there. So what's the process? So that would be my answer to that question.
Cool. And and Josh, I'm with you. I don't want to make it seem like I have it all together either. I mean, 22 years old doing this. But no, for my struggle in camp ministry is like, how do I connect with the parents after they leave their kids at the camp for a week? So what can I do? That I've been really thinking about this question of, what can I do? Can I create like a pamphlet that has like a little like flyer that says like, here's a lesson for each day. Like, this is what your kid's going to be learning about every day. And here's how we dive into it more. And so that's been, but then again, it's a piece of paper, but that parents might lose, but at the same time, that could really strike a conversation. And so I've just been struggling with figuring out the best way to go about that, connecting the parents to what their kids are learning at summer camp. And because sometimes parents don't ask what their kids learned at summer camp. They just say, oh, did you have fun on the ride home? And that's it. And so trying to figure out a way to connect the parents all the time. And, I could do a live stream over Facebook and Instagram now, because that's a thing of our camp days, but that's not the point of camp. And, so trying to really figure that out. And so if I could have one thing that would really help me out would be just like a drone above camp and just really like hovering over everybody just to see like, oh, here's what we're doing today. I can check in on my kid. So this is something, I mean, I know I could do that, but it costs a lot of money and we're balling on a budget here. So here we are. So that would be my thing.
Yeah. I would like a drone too, just because that would be.
Just because it's cool, right?
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? All right. I don't. We don't want this to drag out all night long, and we know that your time is valuable, and I'm just thankful that you are willing to be a part of this. My prayer is that we're able to be a support to you outside of just this. So there are a few things we wanted to kind of to show you, and then I have one more question before we end that will be more important than what we're showing you. But can you guys all see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm new to this stuff, so I'm trying to figure out what you see, what I don't see, all that kind of stuff. One of the things is our ABCOPAD Student Ministries Facebook page. So if you see this at ABCOPADYM, sorry, Kyle, it isn't the other way. It is listed ABCOPAD on that one, but it is the beginning of our opportunity to try to connect with one another. That the goal will be to try to do some of these periodically, so we can meet face to face, even though we are large distances apart. But there are going to be times where you have a question and you just want some support, you want some help, you want some answers. This is a good place to do that. I would also encourage you, if you aren't already, to just search general youth ministry Facebook groups. The Download Youth Ministry Community is a good one. Stuff you can use.
That's great. I use that one all the time.
Great. Yeah, that one's awesome. And both of those put out good curriculums and put out some good game kind of things. Those all cost money, but the Facebook groups don't. And the amount that you can share ideas and glean ideas, and my youth director growing up, Cindy, always said she was always looking for another idea to steal. That sometimes we can see what other people are doing and we can take that and run with it. We can share those ideas with one another. What we do for the kingdom in our churches shouldn't just be for us. If we can share that with one another and learn from one another, learn from the mistakes, learn from the positives, all that stuff, that it can only help our ministry if we're willing to collaborate with other people. So would really encourage you to find us if you're on Facebook, ABCOPAD Student Ministries, and to even then just find each other on Facebook and friend each other, send messages, send Ben and I, and I'm just going to say, Mandy, you can send her messages too. That we can collaborate with one another. And if we don't know the answers, we can help you find someone who might have an answer or have an experience that can help in all of that. Is there anything you wanted to say about the Facebook page, Ben?
Yeah, and even like if any of you do an event and you have kids coming out, or you want to take a picture of students in your children's sermon and children's chat, like that would be sweet, and post them and be like, children's ministry or student ministry, whatever you have, take pictures, post them. Release, even if you have 4 kids coming out, and if they're your own kids, post it anyway. Like, we want to see, like, this is a retreat we did at Camp Ichthus, and that was awesome. We had 5 churches from the region come out, and so that was great. And so we'll be posting things about retreats, about other people doing different events, and just a bunch of random stuff that can all use to encourage one another. And so please post things in it too. So yeah.
Well, and this will be a good place to be looking for events as well. One of the things that we're struggling with to some extent is the idea of, do we do events? What events do we do to try to bring youth groups together? Also knowing the nature of our schedules and how difficult that can kind of be to wrangle at times. We're hoping in the fall, spring to definitely be doing some of that kind of stuff. But a large chunk of what I think this page for sure can do is help us advertise things that we're doing, that, hey, I'm doing something with my youth group down here. If anybody would want to join in, come join in. Even if that's just 1 or 2 students that want to come and be a part of this, that we can share and collaborate those events and those connections via this page, via email, texting, all that kind of stuff. But this is a great place to be able to look for some of that kind of stuff, support and sharing ministry together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One of the other things that we wanted to point out to you, this is the ABCOPAD, abcopad.org website. No, that didn't get fixed yet, did it? So we have a camp link to get fixed. Bud Russell is on vacation. So although now that, Mark, you can just yell at me for that one. I don't know if I sent that out. I meant to. Anyways, random. I'm rambling. Mark and I can talk later.
We can.
This is the abcopad.org camp page. I didn't say much of it in my blurb, but camping ministry is incredibly important to me. There's so much value in getting a student away, especially if you only have 1 or 2 students in your ministry. If you can be able to raise the money, support to be able to send them to a camp where they can get poured into by other leaders, other young adults, other peers, there's so much value in that.
Mm-hmm.
Ben has grown up in camping ministry. I grew up going to a camp. I met my wife while serving on many different roles at Camp Judson.
Classic.
To the point that my oldest son is named Judson. That I love camping ministry. There's so much value to it. The region has 5 different camps that we specifically partner with: Camp Blue Diamond, Camp Carmel, Camp Ichthus, Camp Judson, and Camp Swatara. I also know of what Chris was talking about with correct me, Chris, the name of the camp you were talking about up north.
His Thousand Hills.
His Thousand Hills, yes, thank you.
His Thousand Hills.
Yep. Yeah, so there's those kind of things, and we are, especially on that Student Ministries page, we want to support and encourage you to be a part of one of those camps. If you have questions about any of those camps, especially depending on what area of the state you're in, there's definitely people, I would love to talk to you about Camp Judson. Ben would love to talk to you about Camp Ichthus. I know Jeff Johnson has a huge heart for Camp Carmel down in the southwest corner of Pennsylvania. It doesn't have to necessarily be one of these camps, but we'd encourage you to get a part of a camp, some sort. But that is a big thing to look at there. There's a page for each one of those, even a page for what's the value in Christian camping. So I don't have to harp on that much anymore, but we wanted to encourage you in that way. And then I forgot to get this link up. So is there anything you want to say about camp while I get this up, Eric?
Eric?
Ben?
That's bold, man. Every time he calls me Eric. Every time. No,
I had the pleasure of being a youth pastor when Eric Krahensel was the guy for youth in the region, and Ben just has the unfortunateness of me continuing to mess up his name with his dad's. So,
and also my middle name is Eric, so there's that too. So that comes up
on all these emails. It says Ben Eric. Why do you do that to me?
Sorry, man. But and also we know that camps cost money, and they cost a lot of money, and so I'm sure if you reach out to whatever camp you're looking to go to, they have scholarship money available, and so if you reach out to them and you really want to send a child to camp, or a kid really wants to go to camp, reach out, send them an email. Every one of those websites has an email you can contact the director at. I'm sure they have applications for scholarships. So please don't and I know every camp there will never let money hinder a child from coming to camp, because we want as many, like I said earlier, we want as many people, as many students, to bring them from where they are to the feet of Jesus. And we believe Christian camping allows that opportunity to be in nature and to be just enjoying each other's company and what God created for us to be in. And so I love camp ministry. It's my thing. I love it. It's huge. It's great. I can't say enough about camp, man. I can keep going. We could have a whole thing about camp ministry, but I'm not going to go there. So
okay. So the other thing to just point out to you, this was something that was sent to us just a couple weeks ago. This is a part of the American Baptist Churches USA, our greater denomination as a whole. Their biennial mission summit is coming up in the end of June. There is a beach break that is a part of that is focused on high school students. Some good speakers, Two of those I know from the West Virginia Baptist Convention. I know there's 3 of them in there. I don't know all 3, but some good names, some good encouraging things there, and all. So I don't know if this is something that would even work in a lot of our budgets in this group. But if you had 1 or 2 students who you thought who could benefit from this biennial mission summit beach break, it's the every 2 years thing for the ABC USA, for everybody to get together, and it is on the East Coast. It bounces around locations. So if you're interested in that one, let me know. There's some things that we could support you with in that regard as well. But we wanted to make you aware of that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else on my, yeah, the other one was just future gatherings. And we're hoping if this is something that is of value to you, that we will continue to do this, that we will continue to just get online around a subject and support one another. This was much more introductory, and I know could be a little off-putting at points, but our intention was that we got to know each other a little bit, and that we can share this ministry together. So would people be interested in doing this again?
Over a subject or just to catch up with one another? Yeah.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I like.
Please raise your hand. Yeah.
By the next time, I'll figure out how to do that. For now, I'll just raise my hands. All right. Well, the last question that I have on the list before we close is, what is the one thing? I know that we probably have a list, but what is the one thing that we can pray about for each other tonight? Whether that one thing is personally the thing you're kind of you just need prayer for, the thing someone in your ministry or your ministry as a whole needs prayer for. What can we pray for each other for? And then we'll close in prayer.
So I'm new. I did not grow up in the Baptist church, unlike, I guess, a lot of you. And I just started this job about a month in, and I feel a lot better after meeting all of you. You seem pretty great, and I could just use some prayer to, get my head around all this and hopefully be a tool for you guys to use and for me to get to know you and you get to know me, and just that it all goes how it's supposed to.
All right.
Great. Cool.
For me, it's the busyness of summer, and it's the practicality of the fact that we didn't plan our vacation right, and with a kid in kindergarten, and so I'm going on a week's vacation before a week of a mission trip, which is not ideal. It should go the other way around, but it's not this year. So life is just super busy for the next couple weeks for my family, not just me. So prayer for peace in the midst of some of the crazy. Anything else we can pray about?
It's for a successful camp season. I mean, I know we all have camp stuff coming up, so just keep the staff in your prayers too. I mean, we're starting staff training week coming up June 9th, so that'll be fun. So I'm excited.
All right. All right. Well, as I say at my youth group all the time, God knows what's on our hearts too. We don't necessarily have to share it out loud for him to know it. And my encouragement would be, as we are praying, that we are all collectively praying for each other in support of our ministries. But I'm just going to throw Ben in there, and I open in prayer. Ben, you want to close in prayer?
Yeah, man. Thanks. Voluntold. I love it.
Yeah.
Welcome to youth ministry. Yeah. All right. Let's pray, everybody. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity you've blessed us with tonight to meet with each other and to just really get to know one another, and just to hear about where everybody's at, and just to connect and just have a good time, and just really love each other for what we do, and help us remember that why we're in youth ministry. You call us to be mini shepherds, to serve the great shepherd and to serve the greater kingdom, and to help us remember that we are serving a great kingdom and we are serving you at the end of the day. And we love students and we love children, and we want to walk alongside them and guide them to you, Lord. And so give us the strength and give us the wisdom we need. We want to pray for Mandy coming in as a new RMA, helping us out in the southwestern portion of the state. She's going to be working with a crazy staff, Lord. You know that. So just give her the wisdom she needs and the strength to get through it, and to just really serve you in a greater capacity. And we want to lift up Josh he's going into a crazy summer. Just let him have a restful vacation, followed by a mission trip. So just give him the peace he needs for that. And Lord, we want to lift up all of the camps this time, just to really work through the camps and through the counselors and through the staff. Your Spirit will be present at every camp. It is a special place, Lord, in the middle of the woods, a place to escape reality for a little bit and just be in your presence, and in the nature and your creation. And so just give the staff what they need to really come alongside the students. And I think great prayer for all of us is just inner peace in this crazy season. And we thank you for the many kids you are touching across the denomination, and working through us, God. And so we just lift up everybody and everybody's ministry. And at the end of the day, it is your ministry, Lord. And so just give us all what we need. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. I realized, if you need to get in contact with any of the three of us, Mandy will be getting an ABCOPAD email here shortly. Yeah. But my email is jtrojak, TROJAK, @abcopad.com. I'm not going to begin to try to spell Ben's last name, so he can spell out his email if you need it.
I'll send you all a link to the ABCOPAD website. How about that?
Nice. And we're all on Facebook, and you can connect with us that way. We'd love to keep the conversation going even outside of these things.
Yeah.
So
you'll probably get me quicker on Facebook, if I'm being honest.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So we'll be in touch with the next meeting. It might be closer to the end of the summer, just knowing because of everybody's summer schedules and all that kind of thing. But thank you. This was great. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, brother.
Night.
Thanks,
Good
sister.
night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, friends. I'm going to end the meeting. I did record this, guys. So are we good with posting on, guys and gal, are we good posting on, I didn't hear anything so confidential. We could put this on our YouTube channel. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm cool
Go
with that.
get me eating Chex Mix for dinner.
Nice. Chris Hamilton was eating Chex Mix too, and I commented on that. It was like, what are you eating, Chris, for dinner tonight?
So the next time to really connect with one another, we all have to eat Chex Mix while we talk.
Exactly. That's
I didn't do that because my mic wasn't on. Like, you weren't hearing me chewing.
No, I didn't hear you chewing. No.
I think we need to hear the crunch of everybody eating their Chex Mixes.
The loudest snack ever.
Perfect. So I did post some screenshots on our ABCOPAD Facebook page. For whatever reason, I'm not able to share them to the ABCOPAD Student Ministries Facebook group. So I don't know if I don't have administrative privileges, if one of you need to share that out. But I did catch a screenshot of Mandy, you and Ben and Josh, and I'm going to make mention of you three being RMAs hosting the meeting tonight. So
awesome.
Am I eating Chex Mix?
You are not eating Chex Mix. I got you Chex Mix free. So
right. Then
Chex Mix free.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right, friends, I'm going to shut this down. Have a great night.
All right.
All right. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.